So, um, me and Bart have been working on a little project for Route 66. We've called it Faces of Siem Reap. We thought this was quite an interesting name for it actually, because there's so many different faces in Siem Reap and some really cool stories out there. Um, Mine is a bit different to most. You know, I had a really good life in England, earning a lot of money, had the cars, the motorbikes, the apartment in city central, and if I'm really honest, I wasn't actually happy. Um, I think my life had just become very monotonous. You know, every day was the same. And then one day I had a break up with an ex-girlfriend. Funny enough, we were engaged to be married. It was very close to us getting married actually. 2 weeks. And when we broke up, it broke me, if I'm really honest. I think it changed the fabric of who I am. And I decided to come out to Asia. So I spent the course of probably about 3 weeks selling everything, my cars, my bikes, just getting rid of everything to have enough money to come out here. I didn't at that point think that it was going to last this long. I just wanted to do it. I just knew I had to get out, had to find a different way. I hit Bangkok, had a crazy year and a half there. After Bangkok, went over to Ho Chi Minh, some awesome times in Hanoi, Da Nang, Vung Tau. Ended up spending about 2.5 years in Ho Chi Minh in the end. Um, Really cool place with really good people. And I picked up a bit of Vietnamese, but I suppose you could call it pidgin Vietnamese, same as pidgin English. And in Vietnam, when my money started to run out, I had two simple choices. I'm sure everyone has these choices. Just enjoying life too much actually. A couple of years of travelling and just spending money. You know, I, you don't really ever think the bank balance is going to run dry, and then one day it's empty. So yeah, so ended up with no money. None of my previous skills were really popping to the front of my mind with helping me to sort my problem out. So I just went on YouTube for hours and hours looking at videos how to make money abroad. Obviously, teaching kept on popping up, but I just don't think that would ever fit me. thought everything was fine. Continued to get more clients. Everything was going really great, and yeah, for a couple of years I grinded it out in Ho Chi Minh. Got a house, bike, pretty much built the same life I had in England. And then the strange thing was, it all became too familiar, really familiar actually. And then just really randomly one day, I had a phone call with someone that lived over in Cambodia. I always got told that Cambodia was really dangerous. I got told that. And and yeah, so I had this phone call, and I thought, "Do you know what? I'm just going to go over for a week and see how it goes." Came over, spent a couple of days just chilling out, looking around, meeting new people, and then started working at Funky Flashpacker as a manager. That was a very interesting introduction into the hostel market. Funky's an awesome place, but it is party every day, all day, and then all night. And you know, it last day, I was walking up a road and got hit by a motorbike. Funny thing is, I was walking, he was driving, and I didn't know that that one moment would literally change my life again. I've had way too many of these fresh starts and life changing experiences. You know, I, I've had motorbike accidents in England, far worse than that, and I didn't think this one was that serious. I went to the hospital in Thailand. Funnily enough, they told me I was okay, and ever experienced in my life. Um, and I thought it was going to get better quickly, but as the months went by, I started to settle into the fact that that was probably going to be the rest of my life, living in a wheelchair. You know, without going too far, my whole body still worked. I just couldn't stand. So profound, it's something I really took for granted. Um, and yeah, the longer it went on, the crazier I got, because I was still kind of working at Funky. Having to make different decisions. Obviously, I couldn't really take the news, so the first thing I started to do was trying to force myself to walk, kept on falling over. Every single time I fell over, I damaged myself more. And yeah, I got in a really, really bad state. And I got pretty low, actually. Maybe the lowest I've been, dare I say, in my whole life. And I mean, luckily I've got some amazing friends out here, and over the dark periods they came to visit me and kept my spirits up. And if I'm really honest, I don't even know if I'd be here now without them. My heart really goes out to all of them, because you really find out who your friends are when you're crippled. A lot of people don't want to be around someone like that. I think they think it's contagious, or I don't know, maybe they just don't want to see it. So instead they avoid you, And so towards the end of the 4 months, I started to have to think about how my life was going to go and where I was going to go. Obviously, you can't run a party hostel if you're in a wheelchair. Like for really a thought that crossed my mind. Anything, I was just trying to work out how I was going to survive in Asia in my situation. And then I started doing a lot of research online, because at the time I was thinking, right, well, I need to get another job that's not labour intensive, obviously one where I can sit down all day. And so I thought, well, I better play with my medications, because I was a bit of a zombie on the current formulas I was dealing with. And just really strangely, I got in touch with a doctor in America, and he suggested I try this other type of medication. And it was really weird, because it's a very strong painkiller, but as soon as I started taking it, my body was so numb that I couldn't feel any of the pain. So I started trying to force myself to walk. Work had kind of dropped out of my mind. In fact, everything had. I just had this one focus, just walk, So, so I was messing about on crutches for a while, and trying to get through. And then after about a week of hobbling around on crutches, I started to deal with the pain that was coming from that. And I could get through, and then I didn't need the wheelchair anymore. I still wasn't really mobile. I couldn't really say honestly that I thought I was going to be able to work or even walk normally ever again. But sorry, my neighbours are just coming back. Stupidly, I decided to do this interview at home because it's such a lovely day. I thought, you know, I'm going to relax in my beautiful front garden and just do this interview off the cuff. But anyway, so yeah, I started hobbling around on crutches. It was really weird because the first week that I was hobbling around, I mean, I'd been stuck in one room for 4 months, and I'd only really seen my closest of closest friends. And I think anyone else that had seen me basically was kind of trying to avoid me, like I had the plague or something. And then the first week out of my wheelchair, it was just funny how everyone came out of the woodwork. You know, people that I never even really spoke to started to go to wherever I was just to see me. Obviously, I couldn't go too far, so I spent a lot of my time in a little bar just across from my apartment. And yeah, it was really nice to see the support of everyone. You know, everyone really got behind me. And the funny thing was, at the time I was so self-conscious. The whole time in the wheelchair really messed my head up. And so by the time I came out of it, and once the pharmaceuticals started to wear off as well, I became more sober and more aware of what situation I was in. And yeah, it was quite freaky. But after a couple of weeks hobbling around on the crutches and new medication, I could take baby steps. And then I was actually speaking to the old owner of Funky, and he suggested I go to his chiropractor in Phnom Penh. And it was a nightmare getting down there. But I was on crutches and I was out of the wheelchair, so it wasn't as hard as it would have been before. So anyway, so I managed to get down to Phnom Penh after God knows how many hours travelling in pain. Funnily enough, they messed up my seat on the bus, so I actually had to basically wedge myself up with my crutches for about 7 hours. That was a nightmare. But I went to this awesome chiropractor in Phnom Penh, and I had about an hour session with him. And I've no idea to this day what he did, but between him, the new medication, I could walk. You know, not great and still in a lot of pain, but more and more and without the crutches. And yeah, like the more I tried, the better it got. And then my focus started to shift, because although I couldn't walk properly, I was starting to think about my life and my future. And I hadn't thought about that for probably by that time, about 5 months. And you know, I've always been the kind of person that I like to try and forecast my future and plan it logically and head towards a goal. But over those 5 months, that was impossible. And then all of a sudden, here I am, hobbling around, starting to believe that I can do something with my life again. And all this time that I'd been in the wheelchair, although my mind wasn't in the right state for work, I think my subconscious had been already working on it, because as soon as I could get around, I thought, right, I'm not going to let anything hold me back anymore. You know, the test of a man's character is only what it takes to stop him. And I thought, well, if the accident hasn't stopped me, then I'm going to push. I'm going to push as hard as I can. I'm going to do as much as I can. And I started to think about what areas of business I could go into. And I think a typical thing with me is I try to choose the most relevant things to me. And since I'd successfully run Funky for almost a year, I thought, you know what, I'm going to get my own hostel. So very quickly I did some ducking and diving, put some business deals together, made some money, all legitimate of course, and then bought my own hostel. At the time it used to be Hangover, now it's Route 66. And I started my venture. You know, there was something really profound about buying it, and you know, a lot of people ask, why is it called Route 66? Well, the road to recovery is quite a long one, so is Route 66. It makes me smile every time I see it or someone mentions it, because I just think the road to recovery. Obviously, once you've got a hostel, then you've got to start thinking about, okay, well, there's a lot of hostels out there. What's going to make us different to everyone else? Eventually, I realised that, I was going to put a very big piece of myself into that hostel. Obviously, as you can see, I'm covered in tattoos, and art's always been a really big part of my life. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to make an art hostel. I'm going to make a completely different place, somewhere where people can really go and have their own roads to recovery, in their own different ways. And obviously, it's a bar and a restaurant downstairs, and hostel upstairs with a sky bar now. And I just wanted to make different areas where people can really have their own vibe, where people can really feel at home. Hostels are becoming so commercial nowadays that I think the biggest thing that I miss is home. I've been out in Asia now for a lot of years, and regardless of the accidents, the other stuff, I miss comfort. I miss feeling like I can relax. You can be sitting on the most beautiful beach in the sun, pina colada, but there's still that percentage where you feel like you can't actually relax. You're on holiday, you've got to think about travel, got to think about your hotel, blah blah blah. And I just thought, I want to make a place where people can switch off. I want to make a place where people with so many different talents can come and just enjoy themselves. We've got artists, we've got fire performers, we've got digital nomads, we've got such an array of age groups and people that it's really turned into something beautiful. And if I'm really honest, that's what spurred me on, because even when I got the hostel, I still couldn't really walk properly. I'm still in pain every day. I'm still in pain now, but every day it gets a little bit easier, and dealing with all of these different people and just a completely different vibe to what I was used to in party hostels, it's just so much more nourishing. And here I am years later, sitting outside my beautiful house in the middle of Cambodia. Right now I'm looking at a guy herding about 10 massive cows around, and I'm thinking, 7 or 8 years ago, I never had any intention of leaving England. I'd lived my whole life then. I'd had such a good time. I'd built my career. I had the woman I loved. If I could go back to then and someone asked me, are you going to move abroad? Are you going to spend the rest of your life living in a foreign country? I genuinely would have thought they were crazy. Now I'm looking at coconut trees, and I've got a mango tree in my garden. There are just some things that you take for granted that are so beautiful. I don't think I can rate living in Asia enough. The travel, the experiences, the people, the food. I just wish I'd have done this when I was 18. But I'm here now, and it's been a bit of a crazy ride, but I suppose variety is the spice of life. And really the reason me and Bart wanted to make this Faces of Siem Reap series is because we felt that we've all got stories to tell, but we don't always have the time to tell them. And every time you meet a new person, you've got to tell your story over and over again. It does get very monotonous. And me and Bart thought that we're just going to put this together just so people can share their stories, their experiences, their lives. Because actually, I think everyone's got a beautiful story, or crazy story, either or. And there's going to be quite a few people that we're going to be getting to do these videos. We're going to try and put in as many different locations as we can, as many wild stories as we can, but we're going to base it all here in Siem Reap, and only with people that are actually living here in Siem Reap, either expats or locals, because this is a place that's changed so many lives. and we just want to pay our respects to Cambodia itself. This is one of the most amazing countries in the world, and I think it is due all the respect we can give it. I can happily say that although there's been some rough times, I probably have the best friends I've ever had in my life out here, and I think that's worth more than anything. You know, money can't buy happiness. I learnt that in England. But if you can just build a variety, you know, that's all that matters. And when I say build a variety, I mean, in England my life was just work, go home, eat, sleep, the usual. Here, one day I'm fishing, the next I'm on the mountain, the next I'm in my business, the next I'm chilling out with my friends, then I'm going out partying. There's so much variety out here. I just hope that even if you're not in Cambodia or even if you're not in Asia, I hope that you watch this video, don't get too bored obviously, and maybe think about doing something different with your life. You know, when I go back to when I was in a wheelchair, I didn't think anything was possible. I thought that was genuinely the end of my life. I thought I thought my road was stopping. At 32, that was the end. And now I just feel so blessed. Not just for my health improving, but blessed to have awareness of where I am and who's around me. Anything is possible. You just got to try. And you just got to keep your faith. And I'm not talking about religion, but I'm just talking about your own faith. Because if you can just keep that up even through the tough times, you'll get there, just like I did. I don't know what's coming in the future. You know, business is going very well. I've got a wonderful lifestyle. And I'm going to share it with everyone I can. I'm going to share my home and my business and everything I have with all of my friends and all of my loved ones. Because if I'm really honest, that's kind of why I'm on this journey, and that's why I'm building this business now. I'm not actually doing it just for me. I've kind of got a bigger purpose now. I just want to give everyone around me the best life I can possibly give them. And that's kind of me now. You know, maybe in England when I was a bouncer, maybe I thought very differently. You know, I don't really think I was that nice a person in England. I was too work focused, didn't value people, all I really valued was money. It's changed now, and I hope one day we meet. Take care, yeah?